Good evening, everybody. How was your day today? It's Friday night. Very good. Beautiful night we have. It's Friday night. I'm Kathy Van Ness. I'm the general manager of the Golden Door, and it's our Friday night speaker series. And we have an incredible guest with us tonight. Her name is Deborah Szekely. She's the original founder of the Golden Door. And we're pleased to have her come tonight and chat with us. Questions that maybe nobody has ever asked her before, which is what I'm actually excited about, because everybody's asked Deborah about spas and about business and about wellness and wellness warriors and all the incredible things that she's done in her life. But we're going to talk to her about some things tonight that maybe she hasn't talked about. And she'll give us some secrets that only we could get to know. What do you think? Let's give her a big welcome. The first thing we're just going to talk about is we got a chance today to go out in the flower garden and in the bunkhouse, and we've seen some rooms in the boutique. What does it feel to come back and see the Golden Door as it is today reimagined and brought back to life?
I like all that, but I also like all this old stuff that's still here.
It's good, right? It's a little bit of both.
I appreciate the oak trees that have been growing all these years we've been here.
That's true.
And they're all becoming, and the garden and everything. And the guests, and the yucatas, which I designed. So we're very happy.
You're very
pleased.
happy.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've made a lot of changes in the Golden Door in the last couple of years. We did things like eliminate plastics with our water bottle system. Something that we think is really important is starting to eliminate plastics on the planet. Do you think it's something that we can impact the rest of the industry with?
Well, there's a thing called the Green Spa Network. And by coincidence, today, we're doing a major article, and so I was working on it. I said, years ago I was lecturing at a spa thing, and I said, you know, after all, we're supposed to be leaders.
Yes.
And people are supposed to follow and get ideas from us, and we should all become green. And from that came the Green Spa Network. So I'm considered the founder of the Green Spa Network. But I started thinking, and I felt that yes, the greening, but also the greening of the staff. In that they're all part of nature, and they're all, nature gives and the staff gives. And each of you, as you come here, you're giving in your way. It's really an exchange of services. Without you, there'd be no us.
That's right.
You know, and this whole thing. And so when I started thinking about greening, it goes on into everything. But also greening doesn't despoil. And that is, we are not despoiling the earth. We are preserving the earth as we preserve people. We're not despoilers. And I think the spa has to set an example. And each of our guests at home.
So you've noticed that we don't have plastic water bottles on the property. And one of the things we want to encourage all of you when you leave here and you see those kinds of things happening in other places is become cognizant of it and maybe just don't take them and help us eliminate that, because it's really important that we don't continue to fill the earth with plastics. Another thing to think about in leadership. In 2013, the Golden Door made a change in its mission statement, and that was that 100% of its profits would be given to charities. And isn't that so in line with your beliefs of what you wanted to do here? How do you feel about that?
I think it's fabulous. You know, hey. All of you need to applaud that. And that they're in a position to do that.
It's hard work, definitely.
That I could not have done. I could not have built the door and given 100% of the profits away. My kid would not have gone to college, and et cetera, et cetera. No, I mean, I think it's fantastic. And so the people who did purchase the Golden Door are, in my mind, meant to be.
Yes, of course.
It's the perfect couple, because they not only could appreciate the Golden Door, but could do all these things that make it better. And there's everything in life, there's always the opportunity. Each of us try to be better ourselves, and the door not only tries to be better, but is better. And I was very proud of the fact that it came in #1
Yes.
of destination spas this year, all of 3 weeks ago. And what was really, really nice, my manager at the ranch, because you know I have another spa, and we have been #1 3 out of the last 4 years. And so Roberto, my general manager, wrote, he said, I don't mind the ranch being #2 this year to the Golden Doors #1 because I know how much it meant to you, meant to me. And it meant a great deal because the door is the result of a lot of dreams. The ranch started 75 years ago. And so, I started in this business 75 years ago before it was known as a business. But we advertised at that time and we called ourselves at that time the only European type spa in America. It just sounded good.
So Deborah, thinking of that, thinking of those old, all those memories that you now have as a businesswoman and a very solid, quite famous businesswoman, what motto represents your business life? And then the second half of that question, what motto represents your personal life? Or are they one and the same?
Actually, it comes from my husband. He would, when he met people, he had a great deal of personality and everything, and always see some of the staff, and as he was walking, he'd always say, "Siempre mejor," always better. And I adopted that. I mean, from very, very early on, everybody called him the professor, and he was a professor, and that was his way of greeting. Siempre mejor.
That's a great line, though. I think that's perfect. If you knew what you know today, would you have done anything differently?
Had more children.
Yes, I can understand that.
I'd have had a large family. But as far as the ranch and the door, it wasn't my planning. It just sort of evolved. And you follow your instincts. So it's not I loved Japanese gardening. And so when the opportunity came to build a building from scratch, and I studied Japanese architecture, I knew I was going to do a Japanese inn.
Which was brilliant because it's timeless.
Yeah, and our very first week we opened, we had a guest from Chicago. Her husband was a very famous architect, and she said, "Why, Deborah, you've created an antique." I love that.
I love that. You mentioned that. I understand there's a story that your first child, was born at the same time you opened the Golden Door or something?
No. My son was 6 months old, and while I would be here working, and they'd call and say, "He's awake." We didn't have cell phones in those days.
Right.
And I said, "Give him some water, I'm on the way." I was a cow. And eventually I got very proficient with the pump, but it takes a while to get good at that.
But that must have been hard, inventing. Think about all the women out there who are going to hear this sort of video. What could you tell them about being a mom, a new mom with a 6-month-old child, and inventing a company? What would be the one piece of advice that you would give them to tell them to, look where you ended up? You created something magical.
Well, I still have the same passion. You have to believe in what you're doing. Very simple. If you believe strongly in what you're doing,
you can do anything.
Yeah.
I agree. So when you think about what was your biggest personal challenge then?
I borrowed money from every friend I ever had, and I kept them.
Well, that's pretty something to be proud.
If you were here, I'm not kidding. 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000. It adds up. And from dear friends who didn't have a lot of money, because I didn't have a lot and they didn't have a lot, and in the beginning, but also it was our good fortune. we were the right people, right time, right place. You know, it was, the timing was good.
The timing was right. When you think back on those early days and all of the times you talked about a spa business, was there something that was it hard to convince people that this was going to be an important part of people's life? Did they understand that wellness and healthiness would have to be absolutely a cornerstone of longevity? Did you sort of feel that it was like a beauty thing only? Was it hard to get that message?
I never thought about a beauty thing.
The people you were trying to define it to.
I never really pushed the skincare. I mean, that wasn't my thing. It's always been fitness, wellness.
When you went to the banks and had to borrow
and
money, did they understand that sort of wellness and fitness? Did they?
No, they just liked me. And Deborah needs some money because it's not going as well as I dreamed, you know. But I have a nice story on that. I didn't have enough. Payroll was $10,000, and that twice a month. It's a lot more now.
Yeah.
But in those days, when we started, we only took 12 guests, and we were in a motel on the highway. And I went into Los Angeles, and I brought in my stock because I really felt I needed to borrow $100,000, and I found someone who was willing. And, but my stock would have been the guarantee.
Right.
And I always used to stay in Los Angeles with Aldous Huxley, and Laura Huxley. They spent almost about a year at the ranch earlier. And this was right soon after Aldous died. And what are you doing in town? And I told her, finally I'm going to borrow a bunch of money and not have to go around bothering all my friends. Because we lost quite a lot of money in the beginning. We only lost $55,000, but $55,000 to lose when you're on a shoestring in those days was a lot of money. But in any case, as I told Laura, and Aldous had only been dead maybe 5 months or something. And she said, Deborah, you're not going to give the stock. And she called her lawyers and persuaded them to lend me $10,000 a month for as many months as I needed out of the estate that was not settled. She said, Aldous loved her. This is what he would have wanted. And so I was able to stop borrowing from I could begin paying them back.
That's amazing.
And so Aldous Huxley's estate helped with the payroll.
That sort of shows you the power of your belief and your passion right there.
And they trusted me.
When you first were inventing the door and the ranch, perhaps, how did you find your people? How did you find people who were even in this business? I mean, there weren't a lot of fitness instructors out there. There weren't a lot of yoga instructors out there in the 1950s.
No, yoga had a dirty reputation. We had someone who sent a trustee sent his ward to the ranch, and we had to the door actually for the summer, and we had to promise not to teach yoga. He thought yoga was some
mystical.
Yeah, I mean, in other words, we really had to promise.
Really?
That she would not learn yoga.
Oh,
because he read the brochure and yoga was in it. And she stayed here all summer.
Yeah.
And she on her own learned yoga.
Oh my goodness, so much for that law.
But I mean, but actually the trustee on the telephone said,
no way.
Yeah, that she could come and spend the summer, but we mustn't learn yoga.
So how did you find all those talented people to start your business on the fitness side?
Well, the fitness people were all dance background.
Okay.
Because it's
dance.
It's basically the next step.
Yeah.
You know.
That makes sense.
So it wasn't that hard.
Right.
And then modern dance was popular, and actually aerobics came from modern dancing.
That's true. That's true.
And so all the early fitness people were dancers, and still today, a lot of the fitness staff have a dance background.
You know, I did some research in preparing for this, and I found some pictures, some old pictures of these women on dinosaurs in the pool, swimming back and forth, racing each other in rows with the employees with pom-poms in their hands, urging them on.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about the men in volleyball week, because they're like in here and where everybody's urging them on, and it's thinking like, wouldn't us ladies like to do something fun like that and get on a bunch of dinosaurs and maybe run back and forth? I mean, we don't have the fun stuff left.
Well, it's up
We
to
used
you.
to have hula hoops.
It's up to you.
I thought that picture was so great.
No,
You did a lot of fun
yeah.
things. And
No, fitness is fun. Being healthy is fun.
It should be fun.
Waking up in the morning and can't wait for the day to begin is fun.
Exactly.
And age has nothing to do with it. You know, it's an attitude that you all have here and need to take home with yourselves.
You had this story you once told me. You know, you and I see each other almost every month, and you had this great story you told me about how you like to wake up in the morning. Will you share that with our guests?
The morning to me is a bit sacred. It sets the day, but it also, nature sets the day. You know, as the sun rises, the plants, the sap in the plants rise, there's a general energy. And to become aware of that energy and the fact that it's a new day. It's not yesterday, it's not tomorrow, it's a new day. To get some of that excitement. So I tell our guests, which I'm doing now, first thing you do when you're not even awake is you wiggle. You move your body and say, morning, how are you? You know, my puppy dog sleeps with me, and he wiggles and he stretches and I stretch, and we have our own routines. But anyhow, first thing is to become aware. And then I breathe deeply 3, 4, 5 times, you know, right from the pit of the stomach all the way up. And take that moment to feel blessed. Each of us in our own ways are blessed. And feeling that and being thankful for that blessing. And then as I get out of bed, and those of you, sometimes it's out loud, most of the time it's silent, but I'd like you to try it. Say, good morning! You're sending out to the ether. It's a good morning, it's a new day. New opportunities, challenges, headaches, but it's a new day. And we can influence that day in our own circle, in our own ways. But it is really true. There are new challenges, new opportunities, new possibilities, new headaches, but grasping that newness that comes with each day. You know, it's not the night, it's the morning. The dew is there. There's an energy that to me is only at that time. And it's a little bit sacred. Is that special?
So do you have a mantra? Do you have something that you say to yourself even beyond good morning as you wake up each day?
No, I just
Do
feel
you
the
change
morning.
it? You just say good morning?
I look at the trees and the breeze, and I'm lucky that I have birds singing. My bedroom has nothing but windows on 2 sides. Looking, and the eucalyptus trees are probably 15 feet away, the leaves, the branches. And so I look at the trees. It doesn't need words.
You know, your life has been one of politics and a personal journey and a business journey. Would you describe your life that all of those parts were equal as you look back at them? And has that equalness remained as you've gone to build Wellness Warriors?
No, personal comes first.
So it's always the biggest part.
Yeah.
What would be number 2?
My career as a volunteer has enabled me to do everything I've done. I always say that volunteerism has been my alma mater. Working with groups of people, I was very shy, and suddenly there I was, married at 17, the wife of the head of the ranch, and so I could not be me. I was a role. And I became me through volunteerism, not at the ranch, but doing different things in San Diego, in all kinds of areas. There's a line that you can see yourself better in other people's eyes. And I've seen myself in a lot of people's eyes, and I like it. But so the personal has to be joyous and happy. The business follows. And for government, the thing that, I don't know what one is going to be remembered for, but one of the things I'm most proud of, this year we had the 14th edition of my Congressional Management Manual. Every member of Congress, their staff, is trained by a manual that I created. It was the 14th edition 30 years ago.
That's amazing.
And I ran for Congress, and I wanted to read, what does a congressperson do? You know, I'm running, well, I know they're going to raise money, but what else? What do they do? How do they do? Who do you hire? How do you pick your office? How do you pick your committees? How do you pick? There was nothing. I didn't even know, would I like it? Unfortunately, I was not only pro-choice, I was energetically pro-choice. And so at a very conservative district, pro-choice didn't go. But I told my kids that, and my guests contributed to my run, that in those days, spending $100,000 in the primary was a lot of money. And so I told my kids, and we had a small foundation, a little over $100,000. I was going to take that $100,000 from the foundation. I was going to go to Washington, and I was going to find a university who would give me political science department and a professor. And we were going to do a management manual for Congress. And I took my $100,000. I started at the top of the telephone list. AU, American University. I said, I have a check for $100,000. I want these things. They took my check, they gave it. And the first 4 editions were published by AU. And now the Congressional Management Foundation runs it, and I'm on their board. But that is why in Washington I was able to get my own federal agency. I ran for 6 years, and my career is because I had the good fortune of seeing a need, and perhaps that's the key to the ranch and the Golden Door. There was a need. I think that we're successful because we're filling a need.
Yeah, I agree. So what advice would you give not only the baby boomers at this time of their life, but what advice would you give the up-and-coming millennials with the life that you've had and everything you've done? There's 2 completely different generations. What piece of advice, is it the same or would it be different?
Many of you know that I'm Jewish, and there is a saying that's very applicable. You cannot give with a closed hand. Giving is receiving. The spas give, and they receive. Our staff is better for having worked with you all. And you're better for having received and given. There's an exchange. It's hard to explain. But giving.
Both generations would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Totally. So what inspires you today?
Well, I've been trying to do a website called Wellness Warrior. for 3 years. I have an excellent wellness, not trying. I've succeeded. I have a very fine website called Wellness Warrior. But I had hoped by this time, 3 years down the road, that I would have found a foundation who would have supported us, and I haven't. And my staff knows that if I cannot find money by the end of this year, I am going to close Wellness Warrior, because I'm 93 and my income is very finite. And since I plan on living till, I got a new house, new small house, 51 years old, and I'm planning to live there for 10 years. I'm developing it so it'll last for 10 years, so I've done my budget till 103. On a sliding scale, I'm saying I'm going to be less active, at which time I'll go move and live at the ranch, but so I can run out.
Exactly.
But they need a philosophy.
Yeah.
They need faith, a belief in things besides themselves.
I want you to share one other great illustration you made of what happens when you age with friends and acquaintances, and you know exactly where I'm going. I know you do.
I think.
And I think it's something that is useful
for everybody here.
All lives and all generations.
I decided to have all my friends 20 years younger.
Well, and the circle. Don't forget the circle. Tell them about the circle.
Okay.
That's a great illustration.
Anyhow, thanks to that, all my friends are just turning, right now they're 72, 73, so we have a very active life, and we travel together and do things. And so at the drop of a hat, the third week in September, we're going to the opening of the opera in Paris. We'll spend a week. No schedule, no plan, no nothing. I mean, just, we have a lot of frequent flyer miles, and we got a for rent by owners. So we have lots of interesting things. But years ago, and I followed this carefully because friends are very important. The greatest danger in aging is alienation and isolation. They get bored of living. You know, there's no purpose to it. And so that is the kind of aging nobody here wants to do, that kind of aging out of boredom. So in any case, I was speaking at the University of Chicago Business School probably 10 to 15 years ago, quite a long time ago. And I was speaking at 4, but I was invited to lunch. And after lunch, they said, well, Deborah, you can go sit in the library or in the teacher's lounge or something, or if you want, you can go to any classroom and sit in the back and sit as long as you want to, and then go in another classroom. And so that's what I chose. And I went into one classroom, so I cannot give credit to the person because it was an unknown professor, me sitting. I had no idea that was so important. But in any case, he had each one take 3 pieces of paper. And, I'm sorry, 1 piece of paper, draw 3 circles. Right. A small circle, a bigger circle, and a larger circle. In the first circle, he had you put 3 dots. And 1 dot is you, and 2 dots are 2 friends that you could call in the middle of the night, and they would come running. And if they called you, you would go running. That was important to have 2 friends of that caliber. You know, I need help. There you are. In the second circle, you have friends that you're really spending enough time with so that you know that if somebody shifts in the first circle, you can bring the second. The third circle is somebody you meet, and you think, oh, that's a sort of neat lady. I think, you know, and you say, well, you call and say, I have tickets for the opera, I have tickets for the theater, would you join? I have somebody in that third circle, just right now we're doing theater. But I mean, you know, that you're sort of cultivating, like a garden. You know, it's the feeding and care of future friends. So in my first circle, my 2 best friends one got married, very nice man, very nice marriage, but she's got a different life. And the other one got very famous and is very busy traveling around and lecturing in Dubai and, you know, in Argentina and here. I mean, she's all over the place. So I took my friends from second circle and moved them in, and it's even better. I mean, there wasn't this, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit at home. But you know, on Sundays we like movies and dinner on Sundays. I mean, otherwise, you know, I'm a people person,
yes.
and I'd be a very sad person without my 3 circles of friends. And and I'm going on Thursday to the theater with a friend from the 3rd circle, the ones I'm cultivating. Sounds terribly messed up, you know, planned or calculating or something, but it works.
I think it's a great piece of wisdom to always think about that.
Yeah. So I recommend lots of friends.
Lots of friends. So every time we finish a Golden Door interview, we always try to leave a golden nugget for the guest. And oh my gosh, we've had some wonderful ones, but you were such a special guest tonight with such love for the Golden Door. What would be your golden nugget for our guest tonight?
I would be something like, be yourself at your best. Don't allow the kinds of thoughts or people that pull you down. We all have choices. Jean-Paul Sartre spoke of choosing is a choice and not choosing is a choice. And the awareness that you have choices. And you're the result of them. And that is something that's constant with me, is the fact that we do have choices. We're very fortunate and consciously choose.